My name is Margaret Ann Windsor. Um, the name given me when I was kidnapped in 41 from Buckingham Palace and brought to Moulton, Alabama, was Peggy Ann Dempsey, and I married a Childers. Peggy Ann Dempsey was a twin. Both twins, Carl and Peggy, were dead. Uh, they gave me that name. The mother had killed them. She was unwed. And it was a pigsty where I was dropped off, a horror house. So that being said, I found out about my kidnapping in much, much later in '83, and after I'd done a medical malpractice book on mind control and programming and what you can do with it. And I became a candidate to replace one of the doctors I wrote about, U.S. Congressman Larry McDonald. He was a urologist from Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta. And I'd written about him, and his plane went down August the 31st of '83 when it veered out of airspace, and a Soviet MiG shot it down, and all aboard died. Larry McDonald was part of the Mind Control book I wrote, not the good guy. Larry Flint was shot March the 6th of '78 while I was doing the book, and he had been subpoenaed to show up in nearby Lawrenceville, Georgia, and that's where he was shot. And the person who shot him and killed his attorney was programmed. So this is why I was flown to Larry Flint's during that campaign in '83. And by the way, I'm getting into timelines, and I'm going to try to make this short. August the 31st, 96 or 97 was when Diana died. So I'm not going to say anything else about that. This is just where Flint, I was at his home, and he says in this endorsement that I knew or know who's responsible for his shooting, and that's true. I'm just going to show that. Oh, now I wanted to say here about the mind control shootings. This started back when I started telling about it in the early '70s. The agencies doing it is so advanced now that detective agencies can use it. It doesn't have to be the CIA or the FBI or any of those at national security or any of that. I mean, it's common knowledge if people care to check it or look on YouTube under mind control and MK Ultra. But one of the things with like LAX, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, I've told this for a long time. People can deny it because they're afraid of it or really don't want to be bothered, or they can try to do something about it. Most people just walked. They had rather get rid of me than go after an agency or people who are using a murder weapon that's invisible. The only way you could prove it, really, I would think, is with the patterns which were provided through the years to me, and I told about it. The murders were done in patterns. It's a way of programming a person or persons, bringing them together, and the fact that you can bring together a certain name or names for this programmed subject who's a victim themselves to shoot or knife or however, that gets into a lot of doing. The fact you can bring people together at a certain time in patterns and have it happen says it's way out of hand a long time ago. So the LAX, I'm just going to say this. You have to have a database, which is crypt, which everybody knows what that is. It was used in the wars. You decode and all this. The thing is that people don't want to admit is their own government or governments are using real-life people and having them send messages. And they die by using certain dates, timeline. But you have to have the database. so you can decode it. But everybody knows there's something wrong with all these shootings. The Aurora, Colorado, um, Tucson, Columbine, and it's not just the mass killings. It's you can cause heart attacks. You can cause subjects to run off in the river and drown, like Jessica Savage, the NBC correspondent. Um, so, so I'm going to say this. Part of the Paul, I'm just going to use this as a question mark, okay? At LAX. Is Paul, I believe his last name, well, is Paul Anthony is his middle name, and the last name is spelled CIA. Put the N in parentheses, or quotation marks, and the last part of his name is CIA. CIA and CIA. Okay. Um, the PAC would mean something. The LAX means something. The fact that he is programmed to shoot a certain person. It's so, mind control is so, the synchronicity. It's so foolproof. I mean, it really is. And so the motive, when they're speaking of, where's the motive in some of these high-profile ones that they told about, the Sandy Hook and all this, the motive is not with the victim, the person that's under mind control. The motive lies within the persons or program that are programming, the agency or persons programming the mind control. It's their motive, so you're not going to see it. The person that's programmed, let's say Paul Anthony, CIA, he's a total victim himself, and everybody's hating him. He's going to be arrested for murder and all this. So he doesn't even know he's been programmed. He has no way to stop his actions. He doesn't even know he's going to do it. And in all honesty, if he knew, he probably could not stop it. Now then, it's up to the people of this country, because it's your agencies and your country that started committing all these atrocities. You're the terrorist, and you know it. Now, I want to say that I think his last name was Williams. He was black reporter on ABC when they told about the LAX. And in it he said that the shooter, which you're calling him the shooter, he's a victim, Paul, left a message about the New World Order. And this reporter said, Williams, I think that was his name, said, I've forgotten his comments, if one subscribes to that way of thinking. Well, excuse me, the New World Order just isn't me saying it or someone else. They filmed Elizabeth Mountbatten, illegal monarch, by the way, as being at these meetings, which are secretive. It's hard to get in. What's so secretive that they'll kill you if you try to get in and tell about it? It's the Bilderbergers, the Rothschilds, members of the American government. And from all that I understand, and I do understand, Hillary Clinton's, probably all of the former presidents, the ones that are still alive, the others are dead, but they were members of the Freemasons or the New World Order, the Trilateral Commission, the World Takeover. So, even Obama, when the government was shutting down, he did a speech that I happened to see on TV, and in it he slipped in the bit about the New World Order is already in place. Well, now this showed up on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'm going to show, I was out at Flint's twice. I'm throwing that in for a reason. Whether, in October in his home. One thing that this brings about when a plane goes down and they blame it on the pilot or they blame it on the shoe bomber or all this, um, it's the demand for more security. And people think the security that that these incidents, quote, mind control um, incidents that are orchestrated, uh, it makes it sound like, well, we need more security if we've got these nuts aboard, these nuts doing this, these mentally ill. Uh, when in fact, the security is probably one of the main underlying motives it brings in. In the end, you won't be able to move. Well, your GPSs and all that, and if you try to tell about it, tracking systems, they can put it in a dog, they can't put it in you. Oh, excuse me. What kind of thinking is that? Um, and if you try to say something about it, they'll say, well, you're a nut. We'll just lock you up and give you a psychotic drug, and you'll play hell getting out. Um, so that's the truth of it all. Mind control has nothing whatsoever to do with mental illness. Your psychiatrist, if they don't know it, then they better get in another line of business because they do know. So I'm just going to. So I said that the motive really, it's like a long time ago they had just security agencies that they went out and they gathered pharmaceuticals or whatever and put in security. Well, and got paid for it, for protection, for protecting the pharmaceuticals or fur stores or shopping centers. And then the thing is, they go in, the very people supposed to protect you, they go in and orchestrate um, a security breach, a killing, a robbery, and they come in looking like the good guy now, as your savior. When they started the whole fiasco, and then they come in going to save you from it. So that's that. I kind of lost it and wondering there, I guess, in the end. I'm just going to show you a couple of the mind control here. I came to Roanoke, Virginia, October the 20th of '06, and I'd been telling this, and I was just shut down, and I came here. Lived on the Appalachian Trail, freezing, starving. You think people would help? Hell no. So I'm just going to show you the Century 16. It's within the word century and the number 16 and the James Holmes and a number of the people's names and et cetera, that were gunned down. And he's a victim. By the way, how many she killed, and she wasn't under mind control. By the way, I'm going to have to get this done. Uh, this is just Timothy McVeigh, who told everybody the military put a chip up his rear, and he died for the Oklahoma City bombing, and Terry Nichols is still in prison. And this guy's the illegal future monarch. I certainly hope it stops and some justice arises, but they're saying he has a chip in him. And the book is Implantable Biochips, and it's Project Lucid's the name of it, and it's Lucid, Lucid would be the name they're using for the Freemasons or the New World Order. So, and this is the last one. I'm not going to show. There's lists and lists of them, and they can be proven. But Jens Orings, the German diplomat's son, and Elizabeth Haysom, and the murders of the Haysoms in Boone's Mill, I believe, near Lynchburg, tried in Bedford. In about 87 or 88 was when the trial happened, and he's in Buckingham State Prison in Virginia, and she's in Goochland. for murders they didn't commit. And they were nice people, and it's very sad that they had to be a part of it all. And anyway, the murders happened in April of '85.